back on life, there's always like little moments that I remember growing up of having like really strong empathy for people. One of kind of some of my earliest memories that really stand out were in like grade school and seeing like kids who were struggling to read or who were maybe made fun of out on the playground or things like that, and just really feeling bad for them. And not that I was some hero in doing great things to help them or to be the guy to go and be nicer to them and to stand up for them in front of the bully. But I just remember always having empathy and feeling like I was frustrated by the pain that they were feeling by things that were usually out of their control. And so, that kind of value of caring for people are some of my strongest memories. I remember reading, my first Chicken Soup for the Soul book back when I was probably like in 6th grade or something like that. And the very first story that I read was the story of this gentleman who he and his son are going to the circus. And the son is so excited to go to the circus. It's there in town finally, and they see this other family there who's a family of 5, and you could tell they're much more poor. They, their clothes weren't as nice, and clearly the kids weren't as well behaved. But that you could tell that they were all so excited to go to the circus as well. And as that family that was poorer gets up to buy their tickets to the circus, the father of that family realizes he doesn't have enough money. And you can just see like the blood draining away from his face and how sad he's going to be to have to tell his kids that they can't go to the circus. And the father of the wealthier family, goes down, drops a $20 bill on the ground, picks it up and says, "Excuse me, sir, I think you dropped this," and he gives them $20 so that they can go into the show. And by giving them that money, that meant that they themselves could not go to the show. And I remember reading this story. It was the first story I had read in Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I remember I was crying by the end of it. This is in 6th grade. And so, that was like one of my earlier memories of really starting to care for people who were not as well off. And fast forward then, through college and graduating from college, I really tried to focus on following my passions and following where my skill set lied, and that was in smaller scale organizations. And when I came out of college, my passion was actually to work with college students. I was putting on events for the university, and it was super fun. But and I got to manage my own days, manage my own budgets, my own schedule, manage the events that I did. But I realized what was missing was like doing something that was helping people that were struggling in life. And so I left my first college job and started looking around for what would be next. And that was the time when I learned about microfinance, right? About people who were both combining business aspects, but also doing good in the world. And so what I did was I quit my job from the university and went to Uganda and volunteered for a microfinance operation. Had these lofty aspirations of trying to change the world and started an NGO or a nonprofit that was going to go into villages. And but when I went to Uganda, I realized how hard it is really to change things on the ground, and how ill prepared I was to go and really do anything other than be a casual or an active observer and support people that were doing things on the ground in country. And so at that moment, I kind of realized that coming to a developing country and trying to do something that's going to massively change their lives in just a couple of years and then go back to the United States was not going to happen. And so I needed to find a way that I could support those folks that were on the ground. And so that's what I did. I came back and was connected to the team that would end up starting the Unreasonable Institute. And our objective was not to go into launch companies that would tackle social and environmental issues, but our job was to support those people who were launching companies to attack those social and environmental issues. The goal of the Unreasonable Institute is to unlock entrepreneurial potential to overcome the world's greatest challenges. And so specifically, every year we unite a group of 10 to 25 entrepreneurs and ventures who are coming from around the world that are tackling major social or environmental issues. We unite those entrepreneurs and those ventures with mentors, capital sources, resources so that they can ultimately scale their company and help thousands and then tens of thousands and then millions of people. And these lessons are things I certainly learned from building this organization and really from my teammates. And that is, it's relatively simple, but it's something I certainly take the time to reflect on, do before it came to the Institute. First lesson is to take the time to reflect upon and put down the values that you ultimately want to live by. The values that at the end of your life you would look back and say, I lived by these values and I'm extremely proud of that, and I wouldn't change those values. And to try and integrate as many of those values into every single decision in a way that you act in a given day, in a given month, in a given year. That would be the first lesson learned. The second lesson learned is to not be stifled by fear and apprehension and just to go. When we started the Unreasonable Institute, and when most people start anything, they don't necessarily know what they're doing. Most people are not experienced entrepreneurs or starters of things. So whether it's starting a company or just taking the first step to, maybe you want to begin becoming more healthy, so taking that first step out the door and going for a run, just do it. I mean, you don't know what you're doing. You'll learn along the way. That's the best and the quickest way to learn. But if you just sit there and plan and plan and plan and think of all the things that you could do right or you could do wrong, you'll be stifled by fear, by inaction. And so just go and take the first step. Be proactive. You know, one of the core values of the Unreasonable Institute is to treat people like the Messiah. So meaning that you never know the person that you're sitting across from, the ultimate power that they have within them, the things that they could accomplish if you believed in them, the things that they could help you accomplish. And so to never treat someone just like an interaction. You must treat everyone like they are the Messiah, the Buddha, the Muhammad across from you, that they could ultimately change the world, because only together are we going to change the world. When I think of when I first came into the space, you know, I had done nothing in the space. I didn't know anything. I remember seeing people at conferences or hearing them, you know, reading their books, and you kind of idolize the folks that are the most prominent, the ones that are in the newspaper, or you know, you see them on panels at conferences. But really, anyone can, you know, these people are maybe a step or two ahead of where everyone maybe wants to be. And so that you can become that person, you can become the most influential person in the field that you care about. And don't let where you are currently stop you, because the only thing that's holding you back is your ability to believe in yourself. I think there are too many problems and concerns in the world to try and have to simply pick one. I think for me, the most important thing is what systematic change is going to positively affect more of those things than otherwise. And I guess what that is really making the world of you know, businesses that are being built to both make money, but also to improve the environment, to improve social problems. Making that work for the mainstream, I think, is the utmost importance. So by the mainstream, I mean mainstream capital markets. So funders are more enticed to put money into these companies because of the returns and the good that's going to come from the world, that they're not looking at it as a subsidized you know, project to fund, that it's on par or better than return-wise other projects to fund. What I mean by mainstream is that large companies are seeking out these entrepreneurial people who are using business to tackle social or environmental good, and saying, we need that person in our business at up-level management because we need to go in that direction. I guess by mainstream too, I mean making it make sense for mainstream consumers, whether you're in a developing country, making it mainstream for people living on less than $2 a day, or whether it's a product here in the United States that's going to the middle class of the United States. It has to make these things that are going to do good by the environment, do good by people, where all stakeholders are better off because this thing exists. It has to make sense for the mainstream. Until we make it make sense for everyone, it's going to be pushing that boulder up a hill. We need to make it where the whole river begins flowing towards business being used in products and services being used to tackle social and environmental problems, or else it's not going to ever really shift the course of history.